Hello everyone! Good evening, I am Maick Ofel. Welcome to episode number 9 of Talking Times. Well, today I'm here with a great friend. Well, this guy, he does a lot of stuff. He's a teacher, a manager, guitar player, musician, and today we're gonna explore a very specific side of him. He's also a dungeon master. You're going to meet him right after our podcast intro. Hello, Stefano.
Howdy.
Man.
Greetings.
Great to see you here, man. Before we start to dive into today's journey, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Of course. Well, I'm Stefano. I've been a teacher, a commercial manager, and a full-time geek since 1992, actually. 1995 to be precise. Dungeon Master since 2007, 2008. JRPG, like electronic ones, since 95 as well. And I'm here today just to introduce the many advantages and variations we have on the geek universe.
Okay, before we go there, do you remember the first time you got in touch with role-playing game?
You mean the electronic ones or the tabletop ones?
The table ones.
I was around the first or second year of high school. A friend of mine was curious about it, and he found out his half-step-brother, crazy case, was a dungeon master. And he said, hey, do you guys want to play? I said, of course, let's do it. It was 2007, actually. Then, on 2008, next year, the guy had to stop being a dungeon master, which is like the narrator of the story. And he said, hey, you got in touch with that. You're a nice guy on storytelling. Why don't you become a dungeon master? Long story short, I'm into these kind of drugs since then.
Okay, so for those who has never heard of it, what is RPG?
Well, let's get the generic part first.
Okay.
Role-playing game. It's a story or a character-driven way to build a story. Many people know it because of The Witcher, which is now also a series on Netflix. Or a few years ago, we had a not so few years ago, a Warcraft movie. And I believe these, and now the Dungeons and Dragons movie as well.
Yeah.
But they have actually started in mid-80s, perhaps even a little before, as a way to tell a story inside a game.
Okay.
So if we get the tabletop ones, we have, let me even get a few here.
Yeah, you brought a lot of nice stuff there.
And one of my dice has just fallen. We have dice to be the random part of it. After all, if one person controls the whole story, it gets boring and too linear.
Okay.
One person needs just to create the environment, be like the narrator of the thing, while the players are the characters. And then you just create it as you want. You can use dice, you can use cards, you can use a character sheet or not. You can make a live action one with real acting. But many people, since games are also now very popular, get in touch with God of War, we have the miniature there, or The Witcher, or Skyrim, or Final Fantasy, or Persona, or a lot of other series. And what are the similarities between the electronic ones and the tabletop ones? Focus on building a story where your decisions, to a certain extent, matter. Which one's the best? Depends on what kind of experience you want.
Okay, we can talk about the different there, but let's have a step back. So, correct me if I'm wrong. It's like a game and that you have to build a character, so in a way it's like an acting game too.
There are lots of elements. Some people are more mechanic. They get the character sheet, they make calculations, they make the right choices, and they love getting high numbers.
Okay.
There are people who are more narrative. They prefer to describe the situation, the action, and etc., and then really acting it. And we have people, there are even some crazy guys I liked to do when I was younger. that get a LARP, or live action role playing.
Ah, okay.
People go in character, they dress up, they act.
I confess I played that once. I had this, like a gigantic pipe. I used some styrofoam, some silver tape, and I made a big... why are you laughing? I am a nerd too. I made this big ass sword. Man, it was so fun. Very fun. We played in Taquaral Park,
People can make costumes and the accessories, or they may only use their imagination. RPG can be whatever you want.
Okay, nice. So you don't have like just one way to play it there.
If someone tells you have only one way of playing, that person is completely out of reality.
Why do you think is so popular among a very specific group of people? Because the ones who play, I don't know, the impression that I get is like is one experience they carry through a lifetime. It doesn't have like a specific limitation because of your, I don't know, socioeconomics or your age or nationality. Once you start, it's like forever. It's almost like a cult.
Let's rewind to why do people tell stories?
Mm-hmm.
Caveman wise now. They had to keep their memories and culture running. So it's almost natural for people to want to build stories and to be part of stories.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing that everybody has. Everybody has. Some people use it more, some people use it less, and there are many ways, which is imagination. So if someone likes theater or movies or wants to be an actor, you can play RPG. If someone wants to be a writer, create stories and narratives and words and write it down, you can play RPG.
Mm-hmm.
If you just like to have a good laugh with your friends and see all the nerdish references you can have, you can play with a friend. But I like more the mechanics. I like big monsters and the art on it. Including, I brought a parallel hobby. Magic the Gathering. Man, if you check the art on the cards, you may have from the simple classic ones to the more elaborate ones. You see?
Oh, that's amazing.
So people who like drawing and want to create a background for the characters they draw. You can have it all. You can have arts, you can have creation, you can have communication, social skills.
Oh my god, I don't believe you brought Black Lotus today. I'm joking.
Had I had a Black Lotus,
people would go insane. Yeah.
Push.
There are many expensive cards, right? Some like, I don't know, thousands of dollars in one card.
Yeah, but that's when we go to geek hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
You have rare books and cards and even electronic games, which cost a lot for their symbolic value.
Of course.
But you don't need to. Nowadays you can play Magic the Gathering
online right?
For free. You can play RPG. You don't even need like real die for that. You can simply type on Google, roll D20, roll D10, and you have it. Books, PDF.
Man, how many did you bring there?
23.
Okay, here you see.
I have 3D4, around 46, 3D8, 7D10, 2D12s, and 4020s.
Okay, for those who are in the chat, I'm gonna go right there with you in a minute. To start playing, is it difficult, or you can start in a simple way? Let's suppose I am a newbie and I want to start playing today, because for people who had never had the experience, they may think, oh, it sounds complicated, but what would be the simplest way to start?
It all depends on having, talking about tabletop RPGs, someone who is willing to be the dungeon master.
Okay.
That's all.
It's the hardest to find, right?
Not really. What happens to this? The dungeon master is the only one who needs to have the minimum amount of patience to understand the basic rules or create them, and that's all. I don't have real dice. Man, you can get a coin and flip it 1,000 times if you need. You can play with normal cards like a real deck. You can do whatever you want. But the function of a dungeon master, the narrator, is to make sure everybody is on the same page.
Okay.
Same set of rules, to balance stuff, to create scenarios and a challenge.
Punish annoying players.
We do that a lot, and it's fulfilling.
Yeah, we're gonna go there. Okay, let me take a look at the chat. Hello, Victor. Oh, he's a monk drunk master here. Okay, welcome. Claudio is here. Hi, Claudio. Okay, hi, Anna. Anna was a guest here a few weeks ago. Okay. Okay, Victor is saying here, once I took my girlfriend to a section of our group, she hated, oh man, I'm sorry, dump her, no, I'm joking. You're crazy how to play that garbage, just imagining. Okay, I understand it's very difficult for some people to grasp. So let's imagine, just for the sake of it, that we were playing. So you are the dungeon master and I am a player. So how would possibly go? We will start creating the characters, right? You would explain what is happening. So let's go with a medieval story because, you know, whatever. And then you have this class of characters. Can you introduce that to our listeners, man?
Even before that, because you have already skipped around 2 or 3 steps in there.
Okay.
Let's get to the case of the guy with the girlfriend. Victor, his name, right?
Yeah.
Let's simply think like this. I once dated a girl who hated fantasy movies.
Okay.
So Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorites, she wouldn't like and stuff. But Harry Potter is really accessible. When I told her, you don't have to be Gandalf. You can be Harry Potter. We can have a story inside Hogwarts. Her eyes said, what do you mean? So why don't you play it? I said, if you want it, click. I don't like that, but I like storytelling. Okay, imagine it like a book. Not everyone will get inside the hobby, but it makes it at least understandable.
Okay.
At least understandable.
One of the funniest stories I've played was a zombie apocalypse one, and I was a basic human. We didn't have the superpowers and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about the story that we thought we were gonna die every moment. There was some tension, you know, like, okay, you listen to something, do you check, what do you do, and then we had like some dice rolling as well, but it was very entertaining and was more realistic one, right? So
that's the case. You see, to determine not only the scenario, but also, hey, are we gonna make it funny? Are we gonna make it scary? How much challenge do you want? And even before that, before getting the scenario, the system, you have to check what motivates your players to play. I have a friend. Some of my dice are actually a gift from him. He has moved to Japan now, so he said, I'm not gonna have a use for that. He has given me. And he was a guy who loved electronic RPGs. He has beaten as many games as I have, and that's a lot. But he said, man, I'm not into the creation. I like to follow the story. He loved watching, but not playing. Okay. I have another friend who was absolutely shy. He wouldn't talk to an unknown person without sweating and getting nervous. When he played RPG, he was the most outspoken guy ever.
That's very
so
interesting.
What motivates people to play? Imagination, following a story, social skills or communication. They feel like they belong to a group. I bet if Victor's girlfriend had a chance to say, I like this kind of story, she would feel more welcome. To get a story that's already going in a scenario you have no idea of what's going on, in a game you've never played, she has no choice but to feel lost.
There is hope, Victor. Don't give up on her, okay?
There will always be hope.
Man, we already have some nice stuff there. So first, know your audience, know the players.
Always.
Every story is adaptable, am I right? Like
Completely.
if you, for example, the person likes, I don't know, Outlander. Let's create a story or an RPG section based on that environment. And then you can be like whoever you want inside that context. People normally have a style of movie, a genre they like, so you could adapt to, let's do something funny, let's do something, like you said, like a terror game. And another thing, the link that people have when they have this group, you kind of create a bond too, right? Because it's different. Normally, you don't have one shot adventure, right? You could, but I mean, the nice thing to develop is like you play every week or maybe every 2 weeks.
Let's even introduce the concepts we have for people. A one-shot adventure is an adventure that has a beginning and an end, planned for one, depending on the case, 2 sessions. It depends really on the pace you go. Some people like to narrate more, explore more. Some people are quicker. But
some people are fireball.
When that happens, we have a way to deal with it. But normally, when someone gets involved, they say, man, I want more. Then it becomes what you call a campaign. Okay, we have become a campaign. The bond you create really depends on how synchronized the players are and the dungeon master makes. I had a group of friends. We would mock like one another all the time. And one of the players' brother would like to know how to play. But the mockery, he thought it was like personal. We were making fun only of him. He said, no, man, we make fun of everybody here.
Okay.
He couldn't get on the pace. He gave up. It happens. But I have a group of newbies. They had never played RPGs before. We have started around 4 or 5 months ago. And I said, guys, I'm not going to use all the rules. They have inside jokes already. They have a group on WhatsApp. They are always chit-chatting about anything.
Nice.
They go to events together. To create a bond is essential. Because that's what gets the players comfortable to be themselves and to really play the character, not thinking, what are they going to think of me? And stuff like that.
It's like a safe area. Yeah, and so there is a kind of a misconception that those nerds, they play these games, they don't have a social life. They are actually socializing a lot when they're doing this. Even if the person, like you said, is an introvert, the person will have to talk, to communicate. And since you are using imagination and a story, you feel kind of more lightheaded to go there, to get involved. Yeah.
But it's a niche. Why do people think that nerds are always introverts? You would never see at a nightclub. You would see people smoking, drinking, dancing, kissing, talking, but never rolling dice or role-playing.
Well, you'd be surprised, but okay, let's not go into that.
If someday you see people role-playing in a nightclub, make me a promoter.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Maybe me lord,
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
But that's not a nightclub. That's a typically medieval restaurant. So
nice place. Pay us.
They have done that to me before. So, but what's the thing? It would be a kind of a closed party. So you would have a group of 5 or 6 friends that would save their weekends just for that. The amount of people, the welcoming part. In the past, being a geek or a nerd would be weird. I remember when I was in high school, what are you going to do this weekend? I have this anime convention to go. You're weird. You're a nerd. You're going to be a virgin until you're 40.
Now it's strange, right? It's interesting to see.
And nowadays, it's much more accessible. We have Crunchyroll. It's like a Netflix for anime and everybody plays.
Yeah.
But in the past, it was kind of a social stigma. Then people started noticing, well, not that weird. Technology made it more accessible. You can download games. You can download books or comic books. In my time, if you said I have a collection of Marvel comic books, that's okay. Nowadays, if I tell people I'm a geek and I'm not a great fan of DC or I'm not into Western comics, how? But haven't you watched the Avengers? I mean, how funny it is to be trendy now.
It's just the tip of the iceberg that,
Certainly. So it got more accessible nowadays. But people would think because of the old-time stigma.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have there are a few influencers that play. They have podcasts on RPG. We have animations about RPGs played on podcasts, and it becomes like a branched media that goes all around.
Yeah, the Critical Role that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's a great group. They are all great voice actors. I admire them a lot.
Yeah.
But that's the case. But now it's cool.
Something that I remember when I saw, I said, aha, look at that. If you watch the first, I think it's the very first or second episode of Stranger Things, they are playing a kind of a board game with Dermagogon that is kind of an RPG. And it's a good show to get you started to understand the concept, because they are this very close group of friends and they have this bond. And then when you are introduced to Eddie, I think the
long-haired metalhead,
the Metallica fan. Oh, that's a nice scene, a badass scene. So he's also a dungeon master. So when you watch on this perspective, you kind of understand, it's a weird game, but I know what's fun about it, you know. And we also have, you mentioned the animations there. What would be the pop culture references that we have today? You mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, Skyrim, The Witcher. What else? Is a way that people could get an idea what's that about?
It really depends on. You have used the best ones. The Witcher, because Henry Cavill is the nerd.
The ultimate nerd.
Do you know the story about how he almost lost, I guess, it's Superman's role?
Playing World of Warcraft? Yeah,
he was raiding with his group on World of Warcraft. And I saw, wait. A buff guy,
yes,
famous, rich, almost lost one of the most important roles of his life because he was raiding on World of Warcraft.
It happens. We are
Get me
focused.
this guy's number. I want to call him.
Yeah, that's very nice. And people watch a lot of fantasy movies nowadays, and most of them were based on the game, right? Like the Dungeons and Dragons, the old animation, right? It was made after the game, right?
Yeah, because
the story behind
the god of Dungeons and Dragons is Gary Gygax.
Okay.
And even the name in Portuguese they call Mestre dos Magos.
Ah, okay.
In English it's Dungeon Master.
Makes sense.
So it's like he's the narrator of the adventure.
Ah, okay, got it. Yes.
Yep.
Caverna do Dragão, amazing. Well, let's take a look in the chat. Oh, a lot of people commenting. One moment, guys.
Let me just organize this stuff,
okay.
Because otherwise we're gonna make a mess all over the table in 5 minutes.
Hi, Gabriel. We had a class this morning. I loved the RPG we had at times. I was a woman dwarf with a beautiful beard.
And remember, stealing chairs works.
Yeah.
She was one of the players on my class, and man, absolutely funny. Love the guys.
Anna is saying that she has a lot of friends who spend a lot of money on magic cards. Yes.
I don't know.
Kadu said Souls-like.
Souls-like, great series, yeah. Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Sekiro.
Yeah.
We have a lot of them.
Jackson is saying here, is there some place where we can find RPG players? Ah, nice. Thanks for the question. To create and play together, a site, an app, something like that. Okay, I'm gonna do something even better, Jackson. I want you that you that are interacting on our chat, leave your Instagram so everybody can kind of, get together, and maybe we can have a group, out of this live. Would be amazing. I cannot guarantee that Stefano could join us there because he has, 379 groups already, plus his life. But
my life is here on this cup.
Yeah, but it would be nice, guys. And people complain a lot about this, right? But where would you recommend? So here in the chat, leave your Instagram there in the chat, okay, guys? And we're we'll create a group out of this live.
What is the biggest problem on getting a group? To find someone who is willing to be the dungeon master long term.
Okay.
Because the dungeon master is the only one who has an obligation to create parts of the story. If you're a character, you know your character, you just go with the flow. To create places, names, characters, situations, challenges, objects, dungeons in a concise way, it's a lot of trouble. Especially if you play presentially and you have to make maps and crafts and physical things. So what is my recommendation? First of all, if you live in a really, really, really small town with absolutely no one, no nerds, you live in the middle of a farm.
Okay.
Online. Discord servers or specific forums. Okay. Why can't I find one on Instagram? Instagram is not a place for text posting, not something you would read. But you can look for pages that love board games and RPGs and stuff and follow them and say, hey, do you have another channel, like a YouTube channel or a specific website? You can do that. But in the past, it was much easier. You would go to a Facebook
a mall,
group.
maybe.
You can go to a Facebook group. RPG São Paulo, for example.
Okay.
And just find it.
Nice. That's a good... We should have... I just had $1 million idea here. We should have a Tinder like... Yeah.
There was one.
Oh my god.
Actually, it was a Tinder for nerds. It was an app called Nerd Spell.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a Tinder for nerds. But too few nerds willing to pay for that, they broke.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. But something like... for example, dungeon masters without players and players without dungeon master, and then we just like,
you have the second one, you will never have the first one.
Yeah, okay.
But what can those people do? Guys, every capital city on almost every state, perhaps not Acre, will have a geek convention. JediCon, Comic Con, anime convention. And the funny part is that geek hobbies, they walk together. Most of my players watch anime or read comics, go to conventions. I work as a volunteer in geek events, and my players work as well. It's normal. Geek things walk together.
Nice.
So if you can go to, like, I'm gonna use the São Paulo examples. Anime Friends, Anime Dreams, Ressaca Friends, Campus Party, Comic-Con Experience, etc. You will find players there.
Nice. So online and go to the conventions. Yeah. Before I forget, could you explain the differences with all of those dice? There are many, so because people may be wondering, like, what the hell do they do with that?
Let me just count 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. Okay. Normally, every RPG system has a base die. Okay. For an example, we were talking on the backstage about
3D&T.
Exactly. The late magazine Dragão Brasil. Nowadays, I don't remember the name of the editors that published that. I forgot. But there are still books about this system. They only use the common 6-sided die. Okay. The two most popular base systems you have are the ones for World of Darkness, Vampire, Werewolf with a D10. You have others like 7C stuff. Okay. Or the D20 ones. Big Eye, Small Mouth, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, and etc.
Is what they say D&D in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Other than that, not all systems use all of them. But let's give examples on Dungeons and Dragons, like more of a metaphor or a context. Okay. If I slap a guy on the face, I will never take his head off unless I'm an ogre. Yeah. You use a die that goes from 1 to 4.
To see the damage that was caused.
You would never deal 20 points of damage on that. It's impossible. So use that.
Maybe a god, yeah.
Or unless you're a minotaur. Okay. No, I want something a little stronger. It's a real punch. I'm a well-trained martial artist. From 1 to 6. I have a sword from 1 to 8 or to 10. So it all depends on what's the potential of that. Especially when it comes to damage in combat. Out of combat.
Evasion as well, right? Yeah. Somebody throws a knife at you and you have to dodge.
Then the base is this, a D20. Of course, considering Dungeons and Dragons, that is the only one that uses all that. Okay. If you're gonna play like Vampire stuff, here's all you need for everything. Hitting, avoiding, talking, and whatever.
The experience I had playing Vampire, it's just huge, guys. You have people who play that for life. was that is more focused on the narrative and the storytelling than like just roll dice and stuff. I remember it was something like this. I was a vampire, and on the master was kind of harsh on us. The first adventure we were playing, we met like a werewolf, and then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna kick his ass, like, and everybody was kind of staring at me because I didn't know that a werewolf is like way stronger than a vamp.
Combat wise, yeah.
So we had to run, and it was like this, you know. Something that got me impressed was like these people, they were playing like for years, you know, and some even they dressed up like in a goth way, and they got really into the thing, you know.
The environment makes the whole difference. And why do people do that? To see your character growing and getting new abilities and stuff, it makes the story more immersive. I had an example. I have a group of friends and we play together since we have started.
Okay.
They are a great Dungeons and Dragons group because of the amount of jokes they make. But try playing in like a serious investigation on Call of Cthulhu, like Lovecraft horror. Impossible. The guys would be in the middle of a abandoned church or stuff like that, and then they would make a stupid joke and say, guys, it was supposed to be a horror story, but you guys are making dead jokes on it.
Okay. It's the one. Tell about the one that you were a pix with a pocket brothel. Something like that was a nice story.
Man, that's one of the few systems that doesn't use dice. It uses cards, normal, the ones you play truco with.
Okay.
And the people playing it were also humoristic, and I had to scare someone off, and it was a boss, what we call the BBEG, Big Bad Evil Guy.
Okay.
And he was kind of afraid of magical beings. I said, well, I can scare him in many ways. One of them is harassing him with magical beings. I made a bunch of fairies try to kiss him. That's it.
Okay.
He jumped off the train.
He was a fairy, you know, like...
Yeah, I was like Tinkerbell, but a really crazy version.
So, and that's something, now thinking about how to learn English with the game. I remember when we played at the school, even if we had a very beginner student who was learning, you know, really starting, the person could play. He could make a character like Hulk, for example, who would grunt and like, me angry now, and he would even be part of the story, would have fun, you know. And the advanced guys would be more like wizards, and you have to speak more. So
the fun thing about RPG and learning is that since you can be anything you want, you just have to organize. You can have limited vocabulary and still play. Once I had a friend, he was one of those guys that loves getting high numbers, and that's it. And he was always the big stupid guy that hits hard. That's it.
The barbarian of the group.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he wanted me to teach I guess it's his cousin or a friend or in the friend's cousin, something like that. It's been years ago. I don't have all the details in my memory. And he was the dumb guy. He said, since we're having fun and your character is absolutely dumb, the rule is if you have any idea that's too good for your character, I automatically cancel it.
Okay.
And you can only communicate in simple phrases. Because I wanted him to roleplay more.
Of course.
Make a joke out of it and still keep things simple enough for the two newcomers.
Like a Hulk smash kind of guy.
Exactly. He could only grunt. So it was a funny situation where I made a guy in Portuguese keep it simple for the others to understand. You can do that in English as well. Get the guys that are like less experienced in a simple way of narrative, and the other guys, you have to create the magic words and incantations for your spell. And of course, they would read the books. So in English, you can read the books in English. And RPG is really based on references. I don't know what a monk is. Have you watched Avatar, The Legend of Aang? Or yes. Do you like martial arts movies? Yes. Have you watched Dragon Ball? Yeah. There you go, you have a monk.
Yeah.
And then the guy could watch a lot of those things in English as well. Or, I want to read comics. Okay, you can read the comics in English and get references in English. it all goes.
Okay, what games would you recommend for people who want to start? I separated in my head a few board games or card games like Munchkin, Hero Quest. Remember Hero Quest? Yeah. But let's start with the video games first.
It all comes to what the person likes.
Mm-hmm.
I have great RPG players that would never touch a controller, but they watch the heck out of some series.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have the opposite. It's impossible to make a good recommendation for a first step if you don't know the person.
Okay. For those who, let's say, who play like the slasher games like God of War, the 1, 2, and 3, you know, would they enjoy maybe The Witcher, Skyrim would be a good way to start?
Actually, those games, God of War, Prince of Persia, Devil May Cry, those hack and slash games, they have RPG elements and what we call tropes.
Zelda.
Legend of Zelda is a great one, especially the new ones. They're marvelous. But what's the case? These games have inside them RPG elements. May it be on being story-driven, may it be on customizing stuff. You have a lot of elements. They can start with those ones. But I don't like that. I like Mortal Kombat. And the newer ones, they have a lot of plot to them. You can't start with Mortal Kombat.
It makes sense. Once I convinced a friend, she loved The Sims. I say, oh, you're gonna love Skyrim because you can have a family there. You just need to download the DLC. And I convinced her to play Skyrim because of the family thing. It's not the focus of the game, but you have a lot of action and dragons and stuff.
Skyrim, the scenes.
Yeah. So, and she played and she enjoyed, you know.
That's the case. You found the element she looked for. Real life simulation. There are many RPGs. Like people play Final Fantasy, no romance at all. Then people play another huge Japanese RPG series, Persona, that's completely based on social relations, friendship and romance and stuff. And you say, okay, but why do you have two great JRPG, Japanese role-playing game series that are big hits on the PlayStation, for an example? One of them has the whole basis on social relations and the other doesn't. Elements you can add or not.
Persona is the one with a lot of tarot references.
Tarot and mythology and the powers you have are actually based on gods and entities and demons and stuff. Yeah.
Nice. And this is
I wouldn't recommend it to a kid or a religious person.
Okay, that's important stuff. But this is something that is interesting about role-playing games. You learn a lot about different cultures there because of these diverse references you have there. Like you said, tarot, mythology, it's a lot of stuff in one game.
Religion, psychology, social intelligence, cultural problems. The only thing you need to have for RPG is your open mind. That's all. Imagination, creativity, these things are trainable. But if you get, no, I'm not gonna like, if your mind is closed, you can leave if you're not going to enjoy it.
So it's for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, let me check the chat here. Oh, guys, put your Instagram profiles there or Facebook in case you don't have Instagram so we can kind of set a party after that. All right. One thing is true, Jackson is saying here. The mage will always set everything on fire. Okay. Victor is saying that tabletop RPG, in essence, it is necessary to build a narrative around your character as well. The central narrative, the common goal. Okay. Once you dive the narrative, just live as your character. Yeah, live your character. Yeah. It makes sense. Have you ever played the game book, The Citadel of Chaos? It was my first contact with RPG. A nice introduction after that. And I played the board game Hero Quest. Oh, I liked that because of the Conan reference right there at the cover. AD&D and D&D, third systems. Okay. Vox Machina is very nice way to introduce as well. Really nice for people who like role playing. Yeah, I loved that. Not recommend for kids as well, but it's amazing.
Especially because Legend of Vox Machina started as a podcast. I haven't watched the animation yet, but I keep it up with the podcast. great narrative, great players, but they are all adults playing a role-playing game and doing what RPG is meant to be, having fun. So if, as they said, you have the narrative going on, that's the hard part on being a dungeon master. You have the responsibility to keep things fun and balanced. And which is why there are people we call the DM for life. They are always the dungeon master, because every time they start as a player, the dungeon master gets tired and the guy says, okay, I'm on it. Happened to me more times than I could ever count.
Do you have a preference to be a player or a DM?
You have to be both. What happens? Sometimes, if I've been an only dungeon master not playing, I've been a dungeon master at all for 15 years.
Okay.
But after my first year playing, the dungeon master left. I had to become... Man, it's been almost a decade of it. Only being the dungeon master. You get a creative block. You feel like, man, I've created everything I could. It starts getting a little boring. And you worry about getting the best out of your creations to make sure the players are having fun. So it's nice to have balance. You see how other dungeon masters actually would narrate to you as a player. You have other ideas and references. You get fresh ideas.
Okay.
So it's important to have both in your life. If you're only a dungeon master, you will start repeating. If you're only a player, you will have limited creations.
Understand. Do you have in your mind a story that you can tell, something that happened during a campaign that was fun or unusual? I mean, or okay, you have many. Maybe the top 3?
Man, let's get in 3 topics so.
Okay.
On narrative, on mechanics, and on outer references.
Okay.
And once, this small guy here,
okay,
I tell people, dice have personality. 20, 1, 20, 20, 1, 20, greatest number ever, success, 1, failure.
Okay.
That fucker would only roll 21, 21, 21, 1, 20, 21. So I could kill a dragon with a kick, and the second after almost drown in nothing.
A puddle of mud.
Exactly. So it happened once. Thank God we could resurrect the guys and everything went well. The best stories were about the pixie character you've mentioned. The amount of dirty jokes I made. Man, the master was a friend of mine, and she allowed me to break the fourth wall, get references. So imagine a train in, like, the first trains in Europe, and you will have a guy wearing a Palmeiras t-shirt. You would have a book like the Consumer's Code in Brazilian Portuguese in Europe. So I would make a lot of dumb jokes and references and break the fourth wall and completely ignore the historical scenario, but it got so absurd that it got funny. I said, guys, he got too powerful. In mythology, you have Oberon and Titania, the king and queen of fairies. He overpowered the king and the queen because he was absurd.
Okay.
So it got as a joke. And now if I send a single invented word in a WhatsApp chat, people will understand everything. And this is nice about the outer reference. After you play for a very long time with your friends, you make inside jokes, you remember funny stories. You can sit in a living room, open a beer, and guys, let's drink and play and have fun and remember old stories. With this group, I have a lot. With the group of the crazy guys rolling only critical things, I have a lot of them.
Nice.
One of my friends, he was also a Times student. Even tattoos about that he made.
Renan.
Exactly.
Hello, Renan.
I don't know if he's watching because he is working like a camel nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he's a great guy to play with. He can't stop making jokes. That's the hard part of it.
Oh, but it's nice. The group that I played when I was a teenager, we would do get 4 or 5 people. We had this tradition. We went to those video rental store, those with the
new students will not get it.
Yeah. But we would get 1 or 2 terror movies to watch. Order some pizza. I didn't drink alcohol back then, so we would get some soda, some stuff, and snacks, and we would play, all night long. to a point that was like 5, 6 a.m. Okay, let's sleep. Yeah, and then was amazing. Like the people don't get it. The amount of the social bonds that you create with the group is very nice, very strong. Do you have I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask a favorite game that is related to RPG that really got you emotional to a point that after you finish playing you cried over the credits or anything like that?
The last one and the only modern one is obviously Final Fantasy.
Okay, why?
But 15 is crap. No, it's not crap. It has as many plot holes as 7 has, and 7 is acclamated. But what's the thing? I have started playing on the Super Nintendo and PS1 eras.
Okay.
There's a game who went, like, the first 2 were PS1 games, 3, 4, and 5 are PS2 games. It's called Wild Arms. It would mix a steampunk scenario with Wild West references, but then because of the release dates, they were trying to find the biggest names in the market, they stopped. The creators are getting a spiritual successor called Armored Fantasia on the PS5. So Wild Arms is a great series, I love it. Castlevania. And I'm not talking only about Symphony of the Night that everybody knows. Yeah. I finished the first one, Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow. I've been playing Order of Ecclesia. I've gotten the one, like a spiritual successor made by the same director called Bloodstained on PlayStation Network. Love Castlevania. And there's a series that then it became crap. It started as a Final Fantasy spin-off. It got to the Western audiences as Final Fantasy Legend or something like this. In Japan, it was Seiken Densetsu or Of Mana series. RPG fans will know Secret of Mana on the SNES, then Legend of Mana on the PS1. The first ones, great. From the PS2 era onwards, terrible. They could destroy the series. Pretty sad thing.
What was the game that you think has the best story, the best narrative? Maybe a Final Fantasy one?
Man, Chrono Trigger is really acclamated. Everyone knows it. But the sequence, not a direct sequel, but the second part of that, Chrono Cross, is a great game. I love it. It's a masterpiece. Out of the Final Fantasy stuff, the one that marked me the most was 9. Because it went back to the medieval story and it has the best character of all, Vivi the Black Mage. It's not only my favorite, but also a lot of people's favorite.
Okay, without giving severe spoilers, what's the plot about?
A group of thieves intend to kidnap a princess in order to make money. Ends up the princess is so unsatisfied with her life inside the castle and some weird events that are going on that she wants to be kidnapped.
All right, let's go. Great timing, guys.
And then the little black mage, best RPG character ever, gets involved out of nowhere. Poor guy, and he doesn't know what's going on.
Is the protagonist?
No. The protagonist is one of the thieves.
Okay.
And then they crash the ship and they start to find out why the weird things in the kingdom are happening. And then the princess finds out all the plot, the thief. He's only a womanizer.
Okay.
And he starts to fall in love with the princess, of course, because herder, the biggest cliche ever.
Yeah.
It's full of cliches. It's not innovative. It's not, whoa, great ideas and plot twists. It's the most cliche story ever. But it's captivating.
But most of the big stories are like that. People complain about the cliches, but if you think about the hero's journey, we are kind of watching the same story over and over and over.
It's not even that deep. No, it's cliche. The same comic relief, the same cliche love story, the same scenarios, a castle. It's more of the same, but what can I say? It was one of my first stories, so...
Nice. Let me check the... Zach said, great egg. Okay, Gabriela, I'm playing...
Wait. Zach what?
Zach New.
He was my first dungeon master.
Hi, Zach.
Yeah, this guy, Bruno. Great man. Glad to know you're here, man. I'm honored.
Gabriela is saying, I'm playing Persona 5 and it's very good to increase your creativity on RPG.
Beautiful game.
Okay. All right, now I was thinking here something to really get people started. I would recommend a game that we used to play at the school and it was amazing. That is called Munchkin. Okay, it's a card game that you have like a board, very simple. You start in level 1, you need to go to level 10, but you have all those elements, like you have spells, you have like weapons and items that you can equip to your character. And the best part is fun. Like, it's a game that is like a mockery game. So in case you've never heard, it would be a good way to start because you will have to use your imagination. Munchkin, okay? Check online, guys. What could you say to the... Okay, you mentioned about the profile of the player. So the guys that really want to start playing, you recommend go with what, like a D&D game, something like this, or maybe 3D&T?
Find someone who's willing to be a dungeon master.
Okay.
The rest, whatever. The guy can invent a system.
I didn't know that. You don't need to have one like specific one to start playing.
To have a set of rules is only meant to make it easier to understand, because if you have to explain everything every time you play, it's gonna be too troublesome. But if you have this rule works for this situation with this name, it's only to keep things simple without having a dictionary of rules every time you play.
Yeah, it's something that is an annoying thing that players do sometimes,
to overload with rules. But that's a play style. If anyone wants to start in RPGs, may they be electronic ones on video games, may it be tabletop, just find someone who is willing to guide you. Does it have to be an experienced person? No. You can download the Dungeon Master Guide on the internet for free PDF.
Nice.
And find a friend who has the patience to read the basics.
Nice.
That's how I start.
Okay, and damn, we are almost out of time already. Okay, guys, questions in the chat, your Instagram profiles in the chat as well, in case you wanna play with us, maybe. Okay, or
at least we can help connecting people.
Yes. What would you recommend for people that they say, I got this a lot from students, I don't know if I can play because I'm not creative. Like, do you have any routine or exercise to stimulate?
Creativity is something everybody has in a way or another. Just exercise it. I'm not good imagining things. Read more. I'm not good with references. Watch or play more. I'm not good creating the environment. Okay. Start with clothes or soundtrack or images or whatever you like. I'm not good communicating. Just play. Skills come with time. My first stories were completely confusing. I improved. I wouldn't be able to teach a system in a simple way. Now I am. Takes time. Give yourself time. There is not a right or wrong way to play an RPG. As long as you're having fun with your players, that's what, you forgot the rule. Whatever. You ignored the rule on purpose. Whatever. Was it fun? Did you guys feel the challenge? Have you guys gotten immersed on the story? That's the purpose.
I remember when the section was nice, that after we would talk like it was something real. Oh, did you see when I did this or then I did that? It was amazing. Okay, people around, they might have thought we were crazy. But anyways, that's
I'd rather be happy and crazy than sad and boring.
Of course, this is a very nice hint. Like, you need to keep in mind that the main goal is to have fun.
Exactly.
Keep that in mind and that's it.
Exactly.
Nice.
The whole point of that was creating things and words we thought would be fun. It's not a mechanical ability or the obligation to be the best. No. If your character dies, make another one. If the story is boring, start a new one. If something went wrong, correct it. Later, learn again. There is no right or wrong in RPG for as long as people enjoy it.
I confess that I used to get attached to some characters. Like, after playing a lot of times, say, oh my god, I want to keep playing this forever. It was so nice. And then people got sick of this story. Let's start another one in a Star Wars environment. Okay, let's go there. And we abandoned the story, started anew. It was fun to play. Stefano, nice talk. You know, we could be here for hours. A last message you would like to send to our viewers?
Actually, if people want to know more about geek stuff in general, events, conventions, books to read on RPG or not, Stefano Egg, Zach or Bruno.
I'm gonna write here.
Yeah, he called me Egg. It's a very old nickname. Glad to hear it again. I was missing that. So that's the case. Just call me there. Man, Bruno was a great guy when I started playing. And what he did for me, I will do for other people. That it is to be welcoming. The last thing I want to see is someone gatekeeping. Like, you're not a real fan. Man, forget that bullshit. Be welcoming to people. If they are not nerds, but they want to know, everybody has a starting point. Welcome people. Show them why you think it's fun and let them follow their way. If you guys are shy to start, call me there. We can chat a lot about it. I can give you guys the references. Just remember, if you want to learn, you are ready. Just do it.
Nice. It's well, after this one, great way to stimulate human interaction, you know, because people are having fun together.
That's the
nice.
Whole point.
Guys, thank you so much for being here with us. Okay, I hope to see you next week. A quick reminder, don't forget this show is brought to you by Times Idiomas. I am Maick Ofel, and I hope to see you on our next episode of Talking Time. So let's have fun together, okay?
See ya.